Jeanine LeFlore. I'm here with Scott Dodson. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your startup story?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in the medical device business for about 25 years. A lot of that time, about 16 of those years spent with the Boston Scientific Company, and then had the ability to take a lot of the talents and the things that I learned at that great organization and apply those to several other opportunities, both in the orthopedic space and then in gastroenterology space here in the startup environment and the heart of it here in Silicon Valley.
Wow. So it's a very specific field. What advice would you give entrepreneurs who are entering that field?
Some of the advice that I'd give entrepreneurs that are entering that field is to basically have a plan. And that plan today has to be more detailed maybe than at any other time. The plans have to include contingencies, the plans have to include delays, you have to have built-in safety mechanisms there because you have not only your board of directors that you have to satisfy, you have your investors in your company as well. So you really have to make sure that you have all the angles covered in this very uncertain environment that we live in today.
Right, right. And what's the best mentor that you've had, and why was that the best mentor?
Sure. One of the best mentors that I've ever had was an individual that helped mold my career while I was at Boston Scientific. And when he came into the organization, he had a lot of the background that I desired to have at some point in my life. And I asked him the question, how and what would your recommendation be to someone who really wants to run their own company, who wants to bring new technologies to market, etc. And what he told me is the exact advice that I give people today, and that is that if you want to do that, you really need to cover as many bases as possible. You need to pick up experiences all across the chain from within a company so that at the time that you're given the opportunity to run an organization, you know how to fundamentally do the different assignments and you can appreciate their importance and the impact on what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, great. And what would be the biggest pitfalls that you think startups should try to avoid?
Sure. Some of the biggest pitfalls that startups should try to avoid from a medical perspective, in my opinion, are the thoughts that one doesn't have to do clinical trials in order to bring new technologies to market. I think that probably that's old, outdated thinking. I think that the way that CMS on the reimbursement side and the FDA is set up today, it really requires one put some significant thought towards these trials and what you're trying to prove for the claims that you're trying to make. So really baking that in, which is going to probably take more money and probably going to take more time than it has in the past, is really important for people to have successful starts.
Okay, and what would you say would be the biggest mistake that you've made, and how did you overcome that?
Sure. So one of the biggest mistakes I think that I've made is in believing that the pathway through to reimbursement for a completely new category was going to be significantly shorter than it actually ended up being. And I think that when you are so engrossed in your technology, I think when you are so much in the midst of bringing a new technology to market, you can't believe that anyone would think anything other than it was a fantastic device. And
Right.
I think when the challenges come, I think you have to meet the challenges with expert opinion. I think that you have to take a very detailed and thorough approach. And I think you have to have some degree of understanding, again, that it probably is going to take longer than you think, and it's probably going to cost more than you think it should.
Right. And to wrap up, what's an inspirational story that you'd like to share with all the entrepreneurs out there?
Sure, absolutely. One of the most inspirational stories that I've been able to gather is being able to just bring new technology that helps people. When you get patients that when they get off the table or their families come to you in the recovery room thanking you for the technology that you've brought to them or you've brought to their physicians, enabling them to live their lives more completely or to recover from some catastrophic illness, it's really all the blessing in the world that really comes your way. And yes, running a great company is a lot of fun. Being successful is also a great charge, but being able to help people has to be one of the pillars of why you're doing the things you're doing.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
very
here
much.
today. Appreciate
Yes.
it.